So thank you for this. So of course the big question to both of you, since you're both producers on it, why now when there's been so many different versions, like both direct adaptations and of course even more like worldwide that were inspired by the Ramayana. So why is it the right time to do this in such a lavish way?
So I think from my standpoint, personally, I have not really felt that Ramayana has ever been presented in its truest form in terms of its greatest scale for the biggest screens in the world, and just the fact that it's such a big part of the Indian belief system. And I feel like personally, because I had my own journey in moving from India to LA and then to London, and I always felt that we were not represented as Indian film or as Indian storytelling or as India as a country at large, in terms of who we are. We were always presented as the victim, like the third world, the developing nation, the slumdog millionaire. We were never and Ramayana to me really represents the spirit of our evolution or our history in a way that thousands of years ago we actually had it all figured out. And that is where I feel that this story and this perspective needs to come across to the world beyond the Indian diaspora and really present itself where I think the world at large should consume it, because it's such a timeless rendition of humanity.
Especially since this has been around for so long, and a lot of people, like you said, have to this day have this, perception of, Indian people in huts and stuff like that, and not the grand, epic, superhero-ish type print and scale of things. But Mr. Yash, so how now about with you, especially coming, I'm going to have to produce in addition to starring in?
I think there is never a right time or a wrong time when it comes to Ramayana, because it's been there since 5,000 years, and there are many ways people have tried to tell this story, through television, through plays. If you go to India, even in villages, the smallest villages, you find regular people who work in other fields, other business. They all come together once in a year. They learn to act, even though they're not professionally trained or they're not professional actors. They come together and they showcase this play. The story is part of culture. So there are many ways people have told this story. I think it's our turn now to give our best and try and put it in the best available technology, use of the technology and tell it. And maybe there'll be many more. After a few years, there'll be advanced technology and somebody will come and say, you know what, there is a better way to tell this story. So this story is so relevant. If it had stayed for so long, there must be something. So it's our take on it. It means all of us know the story. As the technology progresses, or we feel that it can be told in a more grandeur way, we are doing it. I think that's about it. I think even after 20 years, you'll be finding many of the Indian filmmakers coming and telling you that, you know what, this story needs to be told in a better way. There is never right way. We are giving our best, trying our best with the resources what we have. That's the main reason.
I think every generation wants its own Ramayana. We put it honestly. I think we've consumed it growing up. I think we need to have something that our children and their children should feel excited to want to learn about it and want to feel like it's something that is very relevant in their evolution. When they look at world cinema, Ramayana should stand next to it, if not better than what they see otherwise.
As someone who's starting out doing a lot of effects work and out and working Hollywood art effects work, do you feel that that now is the time for you personally, like was this all leading up to this moment?
It's interesting because I aspirationally 30 years ago when I started, I was always keen to be a filmmaker, and then I took the path of building up this little garage startup into what's one of the largest companies in the world, with over 10,000 people across various parts of the world. And then at the end of that journey, I feel like now I'm making the Ramayana, and it feels like what I did for the last 30 years was my training ground to actually be able to tell the story or bring this vision to life. And that is something that I feel actually blessed. That, we say that all the time, that you don't choose the Ramayana, Ramayana chooses you. And so it feels like, all of us who've got together, if you think about the people who are actually playing in front of the camera, behind the camera, it's almost a dream that you've got such degree of talent all coming together with that much enthusiasm to bring this to the world. I think that is, you can't plan these things. This is cinematic magic, as they call it.
Were you always aiming to have a pan-Indian cast from all the different industries, or what did just work out that way? Like you said. But were you considering it as like the Indian story? Did you intentionally go from different industries to get the biggest names?
I think there was always the aspiration to bring the best of India, and to make that happen. It's been a very interesting evolution of sorts. Yash and I met actually just a few years ago after KGF 2 came out, and in one chance meeting, I don't think I was thinking of him joining Ramayana, and neither was he thinking of being part of it. But the way we spoke and the way we connected, it almost became apparent that we had to do something together. And I think we both aligned on this vision that can we bring something from India to the world in a way that we can all be proud of doing that. And that, I think, is how he came on board and really has supported that in its full might. And like Yash, there are other people like Hans Zimmer and some absolute top tier action and other teams, sort of all collaborating to really help elevate and raise the bar of what is being made.
So also which I bought in front of the camera, but why Mr. Short Tavari for director? Because a lot of his work is very grounded, not so not necessarily like at this scale of being the fantasy type.
I think what you just described of him is exactly what we wanted, because what we really wanted was someone who is incredibly well grounded in the culture, incredibly talented and smart in understanding the emotion and the characters that are again so close to people's hearts, and his ability to think and really create those moments and layer them with the emotion and the right kind of emotion, I think is paramount. I don't think there's any film in the world that succeeds if it doesn't sort of connect with you emotionally, and I think Nitesh done a tremendous job in doing that. Obviously, we have a lot of the, let's say, the visual effects capability and the technical infrastructure, and that is something that we use as our sort of our capability to. We do that with every director that we work with, is we try and give them the security cover or the covering to say, hey, you go and dream it and we'll help do it. So, it's a similar collaboration with Nitesh that we did, and what mattered to me most was that at heart, he genuinely loved the Ramayana, genuinely cared about the epic. He grew up learning about it like most of us. And I think that authenticity and honesty with which he does his job is very hard to find.
And Mr. Yash, so a lot of green and blue screen and this and acting toward things that aren't there, places that aren't there. How do you maintain that emotional authenticity and that groundedness that we were referring to?
It's a unique experience. But what happened is, with the expertise of DMEC, they were well prepared in advance. So all of us knew what's going to be the background. So we all had an idea. It's not like we were just shooting and then we were imagining that something's going to come there. So we almost knew what exactly it's going to look like. So it made it easy for us to understand the scale in which this particular visual or scene going to be portrayed. So it really became very easy. And the whole team had been working for like many years. So I think it was crystal clear for everybody that how it's going to look. Yes, it is difficult. It really helps if you're in real location, but the kind of the blend what they used, the real, I mean, some set were constructed in a way it looked very real, and then at the same time we had to imagine some stuff. That's part of our job. I think as an actor, you have to do that. That's where we bring in our expertise.
And it's like, as someone who grew up with Ramayana, was it like kind of fun, like all of these things that you maybe ever imagined as a child, to like, like you're in this playground?
Yeah, always, because it's a very fascinating story. Because Ramayana, like I told you, it's there even before you know what is story. Like in your home, they start telling you these stories as a kid. You start hearing, and then you have seen in television, and then it's there in schools and colleges. It's everywhere. So it's something like there's many versions to it, and you're excited. You know these characters, and suddenly when you come to a point where you are trying to tell that story, and as an actor, I've done many roles, or I've been here for a while. But especially when it comes to Ramayana, then suddenly you become like, oh, how do we do this now? Like, if take out the tag of Ramayana, and if I have to play a king who's like this, who is arrogant or who is very powerful, who wants to do so many things which may or may not be accepted by the rest of it's pretty much easy. But when it attaches to the tag of Ramayana and when you call it Ravana, then unknowingly it starts playing in your head, because so many people have played it in so many ways, and it's been portrayed in many styles, not just cinema or television or plays. There's a lot of cultural things in India, art forms. In all those art forms, it's been played. Basically, the story has been told in many ways, but still it is so exciting and people are still curious. And I think emotion is universal. The emotion what these characters carry is very universal. So when we are presenting it to the world and we are representing our country, so nobody can get Ramayana right, that I can tell you. We can only try. I think we are giving our best. What is more important is the intent and the honesty in which we approach this. So yes, I'm very excited, but at the same time, I'm very, I generally don't say nervous as an actor, but I have to say, because people have their own imagination. Like I would have imagined it some way. Some other person, some other actor comes in, he will imagine it some way, but it will always be questioned. But more or less, I think it's loved. It's a good problem to have. So that excitement is there, at the same time responsibility is also there.
How has all the roguish, like gangster type characters, gritty characters that you've played, informed your portrayal of Ravana?
I think Ravana as a character has got many shades. Quite literally, he's got 10 heads. That is just to tell you that he had so much of shades in him. Each head represented one quality of him. He was master of so many things. Like he was a music maestro, and he was good at Vedas, well-read person. And there are many such attributes to him. So gangster is like a small thing. So basically, maybe it was a preparation. I don't want to compare him to gangster, but all the dark emotions or the dark side of the human we explore in gangster. Ravana has like 10 folds. So it just helped. Probably like I love dark character. As an actor, it's very exciting to play those kind of characters, because you get to experience certain things which you generally can't do it in real life. You will be put behind bars. So those kind of role excite me. But when you become a Ravana, then there is no limitation. He's going after everybody. He's going after Devas. He's going after God himself. So there is no limit to that character. This character is like the ultimate. I don't know whether I can say bad guy or a good guy. He's like, he's who he is. Yeah, I mean, he's got those qualities. He's Asura. And, yeah.
Were you always intending for this to be 2 parts and to shoot it in English and all the other languages?
No, so we had originally actually conceived it to be 3 parts, and then we actually decided to make it in 2. And it just felt like we had, that it would be great. Otherwise, it would take too long to sort of tell the story and bring the conclusion to the point where you sort of don't have audiences waiting forever. So that sort of is where creatively we got to. And obviously the goal is that we're leveraging some unique technologies now that we're developing proprietarily on our side that should hopefully bring it to the various parts of the world in local language as part of that.
So, is it gonna? It's worldwide, part one and Dudali's this year,
Yes,
and will that be even the English version during that?
yes.
And so, what are you like targeting, like larger like release for like that one for like say like your lesson stuff, or is it going to be more? Are you targeting for like a standard like get a version, give your name?
I think the goal is to try and present the film in, to the people of the world and as effectively as we can. So there's a lot of work that we're doing right now to try and ensure that we can bring it with the greatest amount of authenticity in the key markets, in the key languages, so that that when people watch the Ramayana, they should feel it to be a lot more seamless and organic, viewing experience, and it does not become a foreign film as the tendency typically tends to be. And that sort of is where we are working hard. There'll be more stuff we will be able to showcase soon enough that hopefully gives that insight into what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it.
So, what was the most challenging part for either of you about this? I know what you, you guys have, but what sticks in your mind is like something actually some of you were afraid of the most going into this, and then how you overcame that, or did you?
No, I think people are really attached to Ramayana. So, to an extent where a smallest error can make it look like we were careless. But that's not the case. As filmmakers, we only can work up to a stage where how much we know is what we can do. But that's something which bothered me. Like I was thinking, okay, yes, everybody here are trying to give their best. Everybody are really. First, I checked whether the intent is right. Because with Namit, he's doing a lot of things in life. He's a very successful businessman. As a VFX company, he's won 7 to 8 Oscars. He has established himself. But why Ramayana? If you want to make money, you can just make a movie and then, get the commercially all those formulas in place and then show your VFX skill. But that's not the point. The intent here is to showcase our Indian culture or our story, which is global, not just to show that a film coming from India. Story from India as a global film. So that vision, it's a big vision. But also, like with all those possibilities, there's also a possibility of people really not understanding the effort which goes behind it. That was something which was, I was really worried and I had never played a pure, antagonist kind of a character. So that was there. But then I felt this whole stardom or whatever we have got, it's from people, and these kind of things we need to do. That's where we connected. We need to take our industry or our film industry or our story into the world. Because world is ready now. After internet revolution, people consume a lot of content all over the world. So I think it's right time or time like you asked for us to present, because people are open is what we felt. And that was the biggest fear for me. Like, will we be able to give our best? But even today, that's our biggest fear. We are giving our best. People are working really hard, sleepless nights, and going into tiniest detail, trying to do, everybody is doing their research. Trust me, even people from West who are coming here, they are also doing their research at its best. But still, it's not enough. That was the only thing. But right now, I think the way people have received it and people have understood the intent of this film, now I'm relieved.
You think that?
I think I've had many different parts in this journey of getting to where we are, but because of my own experience that I talked about initially, when I moved to America, and started to build my career here and met people, it was always something that troubled me for a long time, and it was not specific about Ramayana. It was more in general that we were always seen as the have-nots, and in spite of our academic intelligence, our commercial success, it just felt like as a country, as a nation, we were always somewhat of we were always treated as a second. And that, to me, was something that really, I felt like I had to find a way to use the medium that we are part of, which is filmmaking. And, it's something that actually speaks so beautifully to people across the world. How do we use the power of that to bring a story and communicate it to the world? And that is so I was trying to fix that challenge with, and Ramayana became the solution. Now, in making Ramayana, as Yash very elegantly described it, there is no perfect answer. There is, everybody's got a point of view. My mother, who prays to Lord Ram every day, has a different view of him, and my father has a different view of him, and my grandmother had a different view of him. So it's never going to be perfect, because there is no such thing. But we also know that what we are doing and the kind of passion and energy that's going in, that we will absolutely over deliver to the best of our abilities, and that is a challenge and a responsibility that I think we are all excited to bring out in the best way we can.
Stuff is part two in the can. I mean, as far as
we are filming as we speak.
Okay.
how much longer do you have left?
I think another 3 to 6 months.
While post is still on.
While post is on part 1 and part 2, because
Yeah.
all of this has to happen simultaneously.
And briefly, toxic. So in June.
Yeah, June 4th.
So what can you say about toxic?
Toxic is another unique film, and I think it also has a similar ambition. Right now, most of us, especially I can talk on behalf of Namit and me, both of us have similar vision to, as I told you, to showcase our talent or our storytelling in an international platform. So Toxic also started with that intent. That's why we have shot it in English as well. So that's another thing we tried in this film. Toxic is, on a surface level, it might look like a gangster film, but it is very layered, and it's something where you understand a person's dilemmas, person's dark side in a very unusual way. So it's a very interesting, in a metaphor, the most of the things are told in a metaphoric way. So that's unique about that story. Of course, it's got all the commercial elements. They got some great performances. A lot of popular stars in the country have come together. That itself is very unique about Toxic, because generally for 5 actresses to come together who are doing really well in their respective careers have come together, and a lot of new talent has come together, and director Geeta Mohandas is known for very interesting storytelling. So it's a very unique film, and it's a large-scale action film. A lot of action, a lot of basically whatever said and done, it's a very unique attempt. It's an original IP. In these days, it's very difficult to find those, because we all have to think of business and we go behind franchises as well. But this is a very unique IP. Something like Sinners. Sinners was something very unique and interesting, but people accepted it and they really enjoyed it. So Toxic, I can tell you that it's going to be very original, refreshing, gangster film.
And there's a subtitle about the fairy tale, right?
Fairy tale for grown-ups.
Yes.
That kind of suggests the whole uniqueness that you said.
Yeah, see, what happens is we have fixed formula in storytelling. We try to cater to a certain audience, and then we don't go into depths of storytelling sometimes. So when we started writing this, when we were discussing about this, that story, the character was taking us very deep, and we could touch certain zones of human emotions which rarely we bring it on screen. So we just thought, okay, let's make it call it a fairy tale, because intentionally done in that area where it is like a fairy tale for grown-ups. So we've taken that liberty in terms of location or storytelling. We have created a world. We have created a world which is very realistic. At the same time, we have taken the liberty like a fairy tale, so we can play around, so we can get to that particular emotion, and people get to understand that emotion.
And are you continuing to do Hollywood stuff in addition to going back for us with India film?
No, for sure.
And you have like Angry Birds and Animal Friends, like a lot of animation.
Yeah. Anything else?
So, Angry Birds 3 comes out later this year. That's again something we're producing with other people. And Animal Friends is a film that has been produced with Legendary and to be distributed by Warner Brothers. So we are continuing to produce content and continuing to produce high-end, animation and live-action films.
And then as far as the engagement film goes, yeah, you're like busy focusing on this right now.
I think we're doing this, but as DNEG, we obviously continue to work on some of the biggest films that are all in production and will come through the year.
Dineg is behind Toxic as well.
That did not come to that chance meeting. That you.
Oh yeah, I just met him for VFX. I went to LA and I was meeting a lot of people, and then I met him for VFX, and then we happened to spend time, and then we ended up doing Ramayana together.
And the first and second of many to come, I'm sure. And also, so what's the status of the Astroverse? I'm in since you left us hanging with Brahmastra at the end, so I'm wondering, is that serious? Give me.
Yeah, so I think Ayan, obviously the creator of that film and that Astroverse, I think is writing away on part 2. So hopefully, when he's ready to make that film, I'm sure he'll be excitedly out there launching it and bringing it to the world. But he's deep in writing right now, and I think soon enough there should be something there.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to speak with you at length. It's very rare for you need to talk to Indian and Indian figures. And and don't they did those as you guys as people that I'm the most excited about, because I rarely get to see you guys, and talk to you. But
We'll keep meeting now.
Yes.